Hi, everybody.
How's it going, George?
Good.
Hi, George. Travis.
Michael, Travis.
How's it going, Mike?
Rosalie.
Hello, hello, hello.
Thank you for joining us on your birthday, Griffin. Tim.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike.
So I can make you laugh. So as an avid walker, I was out walking and walking my two dogs, and Midge took me out. I mean, a skateboarder walked by, and she tries to kill all skateboarders. And she was behind me, and she wrapped me around the legs, and I took a great fall. But I know how to fall. No, I know how to fall. So I tucked and rolled, and my head only bounced a little, so that was good. But so the boys stopped, and they were like 11, and they were really cute. And of course, Midge was still trying to kill the skateboarder. So I said, no, I'm fine. And a car stopped by and said, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine. I didn't get up. I sat up, and I knew I didn't hurt myself, but I'm having surgery on my left arm because I can't use it at all. The shoulder is just cooked. And they really wouldn't leave. They wanted to help me up, but I knew I couldn't get up. All right. So, and I knew they wouldn't be able to help me up. It was just a whole lot of dead weight. Okay. And so I knew I was going to have to get up on myself, and they just wouldn't leave. And so I'm like, I'm really okay. And I just sat there, and they're waiting for me to get up. And I'm like, really? I do this all the time. I'm fine. I really don't do this all the time. So they finally left. I had to crawl over to an electrical pole, and I had to use only one arm and my head to get up and climb up this electrical pole. And I was on Kalamazoo. So I'm sure there are other people watching me, but yeah, it was not my most attractive way to get up, using my head to try to climb up a pole with one arm. So yay me.
What part of that were we supposed to laugh at?
Oh, I look very comical, I'm sure.
I'm glad you're okay.
Oh, I was fine. But
Hi, Jane.
I think I need to put
Larry
Midge down.
How are the dogs?
Oh, I hate the dogs. You know, they're just
No, you don't.
awful beasts. You know, and my son and daughter want me to wear a helmet when I walk.
Rosalie, do you follow the adventures of David Spencer and his dog on Facebook?
No.
Oh, it's really sad. His dog Biscuit, it passed away last night.
Oh no.
David walks every day, either on the trail or pilgrims, or and every day he posts. That's his dearest, closest friend.
Oh, well, my dogs, I've become very close to the girls. And in fact, I was talking to my husband, and I said, well, I mentioned it to you the other day. And he goes, no, Rose, you didn't. And it occurred to me that I must have told my girls and not him. So there you go. Oh, I'm sorry to hear about it. No, I love my dogs. You're either a dog person or you're not. So
yeah.
Mike, this is Tim. Question, were you contacted by the development firm for
Yes.
appointment? Did you set one
Yes.
up?
I had Tim, I already had my interview yesterday. I think it was yesterday. Yes. Very professional, very thoughtful. I was very impressed with the way they handled it.
What were they, what kind of questions did they ask you?
They wanted a sense of my impression of what the neighborhood was. They were obviously interested in the vision for density in terms of how many apartments there compared to single family residences and others. They asked a lot about amenities that they might have to consider for that area. Trying to think what else they ask about. Very general questions. Nothing to having to do with zoning or any concerns. They did ask about sustainability. We had a little chat about the concerns over the heavy metals in the property over there. But I really had a sense they were just trying. She said they were going to talk to about 40 residents and get their sense of what that neighborhood meant, what characters they were trying to continue, concerns, as well as what we liked about the site design. General conversation.
So did you approach that interview more as a resident of the city or as a planning commissioner?
Yeah, she didn't know until halfway into it that I was a planning commissioner.
Okay.
But yes, yeah. I can't think of a single question that she pursued that had anything to do with zoning or land use, other than just the general characteristics as a resident. So
Other than density.
other than the density, correct? Yeah,
Okay. All right. Just
it was
curious.
great. Yeah.
2 minutes.
I still have time to say to Griffin, go green, big night.
Go white. I was just thinking about that. This is going to be a good distraction for the first little bit of that game.
Exactly.
Were they playing today?
U
Are they
of
at
M.
Spartans? Oh, are they at U of M? Spartan Center?
So what kind of cake does one eat while watching a basketball game tonight, Griffin?
We got to get through planning commission first. Come
Good
on,
goal.
Clark. You got to get your priorities straight.
That's a good goal.
I just want to check and make sure David Schultz just signed on. I believe, David, are you the engineer for 2 Pine Street?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. Okay, thanks.
Okay, 7 o'clock.
Yep.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the March 4th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting. I call the meeting to order. And Travis, if you would, the roll.
Clark Gruber,
Here,
Larry Heinig,
Here.
Todd Heinrich,
Here.
Mike Neese.
Here.
Amy Nichols. Rosalie Placati,
Here,
George Sleeper,
Here,
Janice Varney,
here,
Tim Stegman.
Here. Next up, we'll have the approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the March 4th, 2021 agenda.
I second.
It's been moved and supported to approve the agenda. Any other discussion? Seeing none. Travis, if you would, the roll again.
Gruber,
yes,
Heinig,
Yes.
Heinrich,
Yes.
Neese,
Yes.
Placati,
Yes,
Sleeper,
Yes.
Varney,
yes,
Stegman,
Yes. Next will be item 4, approval of the meeting minutes from February 4th, 2021.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for February 4th, 2021.
This is Clark Gruber. I'll second.
It's been moved and supported to approve the February 4th minutes. Any other discussion? Additions, edits, corrections? Seeing none. Travis, if you'd call the roll.
Heinig,
Yes.
Heinrich,
Yes.
Nice,
Yes.
Placati,
Yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Varney,
yes,
Gruber,
Yes.
Stegman,
Yes. Item 5, interested citizens in the audience will be heard on items not on this agenda. Do we have anybody that wishes to speak to the planning commission about anything that's outside of this agenda? I don't see.
I don't see anybody. Let's see here. 2 Pine Street. I'm just trying to get- Okay, no public comments.
Okay, no comments. Next item is old business. Item 6, which is a zoning ordinance, section 1743 amendment. Anything you want to add to this one?
So this is the item that we discussed at the January meeting, the February meeting. This was brought to the planning commission, the draft ordinance that was drafted by the city attorney for you folks to take a look at and provide feedback on. That was requested by the city council at their second meeting in January. I believe those minutes are in this packet as well. Like I said, we discussed, or here, this board discussed that draft at the last meeting. At that time, we let you know that we had not yet had time to notice it for the required 15 days in the newspaper prior to that, so we were not able to hold a public hearing at the last meeting. So what we're doing tonight is asking that a public hearing be held, and then you'll take a vote on the actual amendment itself. The city attorney, I believe, is on here right now to answer any other questions that anybody has.
Yeah, I see Nick is here. Okay, does anybody on the commission have any questions for staff prior to opening the public hearing? If not, I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
This is Clark. I will make a motion to open the public hearing.
This is Nice.
Brewer,
I'll
Sleeper,
support it.
I'll second.
Sleeper. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the roll to open the public hearing.
Heinrich,
Todd? Go to- Yes.
Nice,
Yes.
Placati,
Yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Varney,
yes,
Gruber,
Yes.
Heinig,
Yes.
Stegman,
Yes. Okay, public hearings open. Does anybody wish to speak on this section 1743 amendment?
doesn't look like.
I don't see
Anybody? No. He scrolled very well. No, I don't see anybody.
All right, seeing no public comment, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
this is
Mr.
Janet.
Chairman, Heinig here. I move we close the public hearing on zoning ordinance amendments to section 1743.
This is Varney, and I support that.
Been moved and supported to close the public hearing. Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Nice,
Yes.
Plicati,
Yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Barney,
Yes,
Gruber,
Yes.
Heinig,
Yes,
Heinrich,
yes,
Stegman.
Yes. Okay, public hearing is closed. Next up, you will consider a motion to approve the amendment.
This is Nice. I make a motion to approve the proposed amendment to section 1743 of the zoning ordinance, revising the formula for calculating the maximum number of short-term rental business units allowed in the city. And furthermore, sending this proposed amendment to the city council for consideration.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and supported to approve the proposed amendment. Is there any commissioner comments? Seeing none, Travis, if you call the roll.
Plicati,
Oh, yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Barney,
yes,
Gruber,
Yes.
Heinig,
yes,
Heinrich,
yes,
Nice,
Yes.
Stegman.
No.
Okay, so the motion passed on a 7-1.
Right. Okay, next up, we have new business. Item 7, 2 Pine Street Site Plan Review.
So this is a request by Mr. David and Ms. Sandy Fensky of 2 Pine Street to place a I guess it's a reinforcement of the current seawall that's there right now. The project includes the installation of approximately 204 linear feet of riprap shoreline protection on the lakeward side of the existing seawall, which will extend a maximum of 15 linear feet lakeward from the existing seawall. The additional work will include the placement of sand above the seawall to backfill the eroding lakeshore bluff. Approximately 212 cubic yards of the native sand / clay will be excavated for the placement of the riprap, and approximately 653 cubic yards of new riprap will be placed over the existing riprap along the lakeward side of the existing seawall. I believe the engineer and I think the homeowner are both here tonight. And so hopefully they can answer any additional questions that the commission might have.
Okay, who is it? David Schultz is the engineer. David, were there was there anything you'd like to add that Travis didn't already mention?
Well, I could add a lot about the fact that putting rock there actually softens the shoreline compared to the vertical seawall that's going to be sequestered behind it. So it's actually a safer stretch of shoreline once this is done than it is right now as well.
Okay. All right, does the commission have any questions for staff or the property owner engineer?
I actually did a little bit. It just helped me understand. You're going on top of what's already there. How much further into the lake are you going? Are you?
Well, actually, considering there's a lakeward wall that's already been flanked from long ago, we're
Right.
not even going out that far.
Okay, great.
So we're not expanding the footprint of what's already there from the past. And our original plan actually tried to get a bigger footprint to try to sequester that wall too. But the state, John Beha said, no, you gotta have a smaller footprint than that. And so we reduced the footprint quite substantially in order to get that permit.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Anybody else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the site plans.
I'll make a motion to approve the site plans as presented.
This is
I'll
Clark.
second it.
Okay. Been moved and supported to approve the site plans for 2 Pine Street. Any other discussion?
This is Janice. I just want to clarify what Rosalie said, that 15 linear feet outward into the lake. I think the engineer answered my question there, but I want to make sure that it's not encroaching on any public, the public walking the beach.
Well, I would, by studying the plans, you can see that the rock is going to be landward of the farthest out seawall that's still there, that's gotten flanked in the past. So I would hope that the rock revetment would be less hydrodynamic than a vertical wall. So it would actually encourage more settlement of sand there than what's there now.
Thank you, David. That was an important question for me, and I thought you answered it with Rosalie, but I just wanted to confirm it.
Oh, no, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, any additional discussion?
Mr. Chairman, Heinig
Yes,
here.
sir.
I agree with the engineer's assessment that the rock being placed is going to be a softer shoreline than what
And
sheet
steel.
piling wall is. However, this still direct your attention to page 59 in the staff report. This proposal still does not enhance the use of the abutting waters as required by section 1404, item 4 of our zoning ordinance.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask, Larry, could I have that page number for reference again, please?
Staff report page number 59,
Section 1404.
zoning ordinance section 1404, item 4.
Thank you.
Which one did he reference?
At 1404.
Okay, is there any additional discussion? Was Nick here for this too, or just the?
Just the first item, but it looks like it's still on.
I'm still here. Yeah, I thought you might need me on this one, so I stuck around.
What's your assessment of what Larry said?
So I don't believe that 14.4 applies to revetments and other shoreline protection. It's specifically, by its wording, limited to open spaces, landscaping, screening, and buffering. I don't see that. I don't see a revetment following in any of those those categories. It's more of a structure, and it's a structure that's expressly allowed by the zoning ordinance. So I don't, in my opinion, this isn't applicable.
Okay. Well, thanks for hanging around, man. All right. Any other discussion? Seeing none, it's been moved and supported to approve the site plans for 2 Pine Street. And Travis, if you would, call the roll.
Placati,
Yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Barney,
yes,
Gruber,
Yes.
Heinig,
No,
Heinrich, Heinrich,
yes,
Nice,
Yes.
Stegman,
Yes. Okay, that's approved.
I just want to say thank you for your time and consideration of this request.
Okay, thank you for stopping in this evening.
Good night now.
All right, new business, item 8, master plan goals and actions. This is a discussion topic.
So this is kind of beginning the discussion that I believe, I think the planning commission may have started about 5 or 6 months ago. Brad might be able to help me out with that a little bit more. Brad has put together a presentation tonight to start to give the planning commission some ideas about some of the items in the master plan that there may be areas of the zoning ordinance that could use some updating to run a little more with what the master plan suggests. And so with that, I'm just going to turn it over to Brad and allow him to run some ideas past you.
Okay, Brad, you with us?
All right, thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. So yes, Travis, do I have administrator privileges on here?
If you're a co-host, you should be able to share your screen.
Okay, let me see. Share, how do I share? Oh, there we go. Okay. Everyone got that?
Yes.
All right, good. Okay, so basically, as you all possibly remember, we were discussing about 6 months ago the RRC, the Redevelopment Ready Communities process that the city was preparing for and going through to be certified by MEDC at the end of December. The city was certified as an RRC compliant community. So that was a goal that was accomplished. And back about 6 months ago, what we had to do was we had to go through all the goals and objectives in the master plan. And we had to look at all the objectives or the action items to achieve those goals and basically work through a plan of attack to accomplish those. Now, as you all know, we did this master plan a couple years ago, and you all took part of that. And so what Travis and I felt would be good is to actually start getting our hands dirty and jumping into the master plan and trying to accomplish some of the goals that were set forth by you and the rest of the community a couple years ago. So we started out with objective number 1 or part 1, which is all based on the natural resources and sensitive environments in the city. And there are 8 action items with that I would like to just briefly touch on tonight and maybe get a discussion going with all of you to see how we can create a plan of attack to start accomplishing these and checking them off the list. So when the update comes up in a few years, we can sit down as a group and say, okay, yes, we did accomplish these and check them off the list. So that, as you know, is one of the objectives of a planning commission, not just to approve permits. So, okay. So what I have here is just a very short presentation put together, it just briefly overviews these items. The goals and objectives section, basically, as I said, are your long-term goals for the community. In the master plan that was adopted in 2018, the input sources for these goals were the public surveys, the neighborhood workshops, the Downtown Development Authority participants, the local Development Finance Authority folks, the Overton property charrette exercise, which, as we all know, is chugging along right now, and the open houses. And this was the very first goal, and that was to create an outline for accomplishing certain things with the sensitive and vulnerable environments in the city. So these are the 8 items that Travis had shown, and these were the identified goals, and they were the natural resources, the residential development, neighborhood character, the commercial development, the business loop corridor development, industrial, transportation and pedestrian circulation, economic development. There was an idea for creating a central gathering venue in the community, and then at the end, recreation. So let's jump into the natural resources and sensitive environments. The goal of there's one goal in this, and it's an overarching goal, is to ensure that the city of South Haven policies include development and maintenance procedures that consider the natural amenities both on and near the development site, the maintenance location, and that result in the preservation and protection of the natural resources and sensitive environments where possible. So there were 8 action items created by you all to accomplish this goal. And what we're going to do is touch on those. And I was digging through some of the historic photos of the city, and I pulled this up. This photo here is from the 1960s, when there was high water going on at that time too. And as you can see, these 2 gentlemen here are shoveling sandbags to try and protect that. And I thought that might be a little appropriate to what the city's been going through over the last couple of years. So I thought it was a pretty interesting photo. The objective 1 is basically amending section 1405 of the zoning ordinance. And what that does is that is a step of the site plan review process that city staff, beginning with Travis or myself or Griffin or whomever is involved with it, would first review and then present to you all as a requirement for submission on a final site plan. So basically what the goal or the objective is to request the inclusion of showing both regulated and unregulated wetlands on site plan review projects. I pulled a section out of this particular section out of the ordinance so you all can read it word for word. And it deals with existing man-made features and existing natural features, including all trees, woods, and on-site, all drains, streams, lake ponds, floodplains, sand dunes, high-risk erosion areas, and so on and so forth. So one way to just accomplish this right off the bat, and we discussed this last summer, I had shown that, yep, we could probably get this done pretty quickly, is just do a simple amendment by adding regulated and unregulated wetlands into this, this section or subsection in 1405. So that when we do review the site plans and we take them before you all to approve, that's something that any applicant would have to show. So we can see if that's something that's going to be affected in town. The second item, the objective 2, is incorporate by reference into section 718, the environmental impact statement procedures and items into article 14, site plan review. Basically what this is doing is this would install the environmental impact statement as a conditional requirement into all site plan review processes. And therefore, we can make the determination when and where an environmental impact statement is required. It kind of is like that now, but it's very detailed to only a couple specific items. This would make it more of a general. And basically what this would do is it gives you all in the Planning Commission the authority to require an environmental impact statement where you feel it's necessary. And is everyone familiar with what an environmental impact statement is? I think you all are. It's a requirement that a neutral, typically a neutral party would be brought in by the applicant to show to the city if any of the natural resources or soils, air, floodplains, wetlands, those sorts of things are being impacted by the development that's being proposed. And right now, the Planning Commission can, approve, deny, or approve of conditions in an environmental impact statement in these items here. So, that's something we could possibly stick in to allow you all to have more of the ability to kind of put this in where you feel it's necessary to do so.
Brad, would you like comments individually on each of these items, or would you like us to hold them until you get through?
No, you can jump in anytime, Larry, and start commenting. Might be
Larry,
more productive that way.
Well, Larry, what I'd like to have happen is Brad will run through these and then we'll circle back and go through them one by one.
As you wish, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good, Tim. Okay, so the third objective item is to amend section 17095, which is in reference to the plant materials and landscaping requirements of Article 17, which is the general provisions section of the zoning ordinance. And what this does is this basically highlights all the general provisions of the community. But what this is asking is to increase the percentage of areas that is designated on a development site for stormwater management with features such as bioswales, rain gardens, and things like that, and then also allowing them to count towards their specific landscaping requirements. So something like this is important to keep in mind when a large development or a planned unit development, which we do have a couple in the works right now, that will be coming before you all and then over the next few months. And they are, 150 to 200 plus housing unit, planned unit development proposals. And these sorts of things are pertinent and important to consider when large project developments are brought before you. And this is specifically speaking to areas used for storm drainage purposes, such as unfenced drainage courses, retention areas, front and side yards, and they may include the portion of the landscape, but it can't exceed 5% of the site area. So what this is requesting is possibly changing this to increase the percentage, but also allowing more or requiring more of an applicant to design these items and features into their development projects. Item 4 is for municipal and private projects, especially those specifically along William Street and near the Black River and other areas identified, to provide the guidelines for low maintenance grasses, native plantings, and other plant materials and rain gardens, which help filter off runoff from nearby streets, parking areas, and lawns. And review an addendum of recommended plant materials and landscaping to consider additional specific guidelines for filtering and rain garden type materials. So this would require really our plant materials and landscaping requirements section is actually a few pages long in the zoning ordinance. So I did not snip that out for you all, but it would require us to basically work through that section and figure out how we could creatively place this type of stuff into this section to allow, again, if there's any development along these more sensitive areas that are really where the river or these spaces along the Black River are be impacted more by runoff, how would we require that to be done? It also is talking about the possibility of having the city as well pay attention to these sorts of options instead of going straight to the hard scale or the hard scale or the hard tile, I should say, or however you pronounce it, the standard stormwater type stuff, and to create some sort of along roadsides and stuff like that to create these bioswales to help naturally collect stormwater runoff and then naturally filter it back into the groundwater that way, instead of just sapping it off the road with the contaminations in it and then shooting it on down the pipe. So this is just a picture in case you all aren't aware of what a bioswale technically is. If you've been up near Grand Rapids, they're really starting to become popular up here. This on the right-hand side, this is actually in the North Park neighborhood. This is a bioswale that was installed in the city a few years back. So you can see the before and after photos of what it looks like. And if you see on the diagram to the left, you can see actually how they function. They put those native grasses, trees, shrubs, things like that, that naturally would grow in your community. And then they channel the runoff from the roadways and the sidewalks just naturally in there. And what it does is it seeps down through the soils that are placed in, which then filters out the contaminants and then allows the water to leach back into the soils naturally. The fifth objective is discussing the desirability of providing regulations for WECs or wind energy conservation systems, wind turbines, and solar panels. Now, I did go through the ordinance. We do have quite a comprehensive wind turbine section in the ordinance, both in section 1742 and section 1500. Which goes through all, where they can be located, how large they can be, what their operations have to go through, excuse me, and those sorts of things. So this may have been an item actually at the time that has been created since this master plan goals and objectives process was developed. So unless you all would like to continue to expand on what we have in there, and again, we would have to refer back to the section. This again is a few pages long. It's something that we can talk about if you would like to continually regulate further than what we have in the ordinance already, but it very well may be something that we could just check off our list. Okay, objective number 6 has to deal with conduct an analysis of community and neighborhood support for height restrictions for structures which may affect beach and harbor views. Now, I don't know if Nick's still on the line, but I believe as far as I know, in the state of Michigan, the state really does not consider views as a property right for a property owner. So it's up to the local ordinances to regulate these intentions through ordinances or regulations affecting things like heights of buildings, where you site certain buildings, what dimensional sizes, things like that we already do. But I think what this objective specifically was speaking to is to, possibly look at this as, should we do an analysis of our neighborhoods on a neighborhood by neighborhood, kind of research project, and look to see if there's anything that we specifically could put in to our ordinances to continue to protect those views of the harbor and Lake Michigan. Objective 7 is examine the regulations for outdoor fire pits within the city limits to ensure regulations address distances from structures, the types of materials burned, the size of the fire pits or fireplaces, outdoor fireplaces, hours of operation, and any additional regulations to ensure safe and environmentally responsible burning. Now, you might all be shocked to know, but we have no ordinance in the zoning ordinance or in the code of ordinances that does regulate outdoor fire pits or grills or fireplaces. And we've had several complaints since I've been around from residents that there are fire pits that have been installed, permanent fire pits that have been constructed, near public sidewalks and things like that. Now, typically how we regulate them is we regulate them as an accessory structure. And our accessory structures really only have to be 3 feet off of the property line. Now, speaking with the building inspector in the city, historically, since I have been there, we have tried to kind of place our own quasi rules at guiding people of how to install these. And we've been requesting at least 10 feet from a property line, at least 10 feet from a building, make sure that it's clear above it so you're not shooting sparks into, you know, vegetation. And then also make sure that it's in the side or rear yard only. What we also have noticed is people that have called into the city offices speaking about either people who are possibly short-term rental folks or even permanent residents that have those portable fire pits or fireplaces, and they actually wheel them out into the front yard and sit out there in their lawn chairs and turn the things on. So it's kind of difficult for us to enforce because these things come out in the evening. City ordinance trucks aren't driving around at that time. And then things like that typically get packed away before the evening's over with. So, it may be something that we should consider placing into the zoning ordinance to speak towards this, to create measures that ensure safe and responsible use, not only for the person operating the fire pit itself, but the surrounding neighbors as well. And then the final, the final objective is speaks about removing trees. If construction comes in and proposes the removal of trees for a development or even the addition of trees, it's suggesting that they should coordinate with the city arborist. We do have an arborist that is contracted with the city, and the reason for doing this would be to make sure that we preserve our urban tree canopy that exists presently. As you know, the city itself is a Arbor Foundation tree city, and we really would like to keep as many of those mature trees in people's yards and in areas where there's going to be development. So it's something right now that we necessarily do not look for specifically in a site plan review. Often these developers do try and maintain as many mature trees as possible if they can, because it looks better. It's also cheaper because they don't have to go in and remove them, but it's not formally required. So that's something that everyone, addressed here with this objective is to try and place something in. So we do this in our site plan reviews and try and work this in as an actual goal in the process. So, okay, I think our next steps are to go through each of these 8 objectives and come up with short action items that the PC, you all, and staff can accomplish in the short term to perform these 8 goals. And if there are any objectives that the city, through you all, should consider for further protection and preservation of sensitive and vulnerable areas in the environment, maybe this is the time that we start, discussing that stuff. And if you notice, these are the only 8 action items in the master plan that deals with the environment. There's nothing in here about high water or sensitive shorelines. That's been a very large topic over the last 18 months. And that's something that you all have addressed, that you would like to see, changes in the ordinances and the way that we handle our reviews and our requirements for people who are putting in applications. So, that's something that you may want to kind of work into these goals and objectives. And I think possibly setting up completion dates even for some of these items would be good. I mean, now that the city is RRC certified, we need to continue to work through these city documents and accomplish these things and continue to expand and develop more, because the RRC actually goes back and they continually monitor if the city itself is actually doing that sort of thing and maintaining their readiness to be a positive redevelopment community. So, okay, I will turn it over to you all to see if we can, if you want to go through each of these items. So Tim, why don't you take it away?
Okay, thank you, Brad. So we'll go through these items 1 through 8. And I think they're pretty self-explanatory, but if you have any, this would be like the initial run through for comments. Or if maybe you even have a more specific question. So the first one is section 1405 amendment. Does anybody have anything for that one? Brad, I'll ask you, so in South Haven, regulated versus unregulated wetlands, do we have either one of those?
There are certain areas in the community that do have wetlands in them. The largest, obviously, that you know, is over by the river off of, you know, kind of near, I don't actually know what it's called, but you can see it on the aerial maps. I believe it's over by the water treatment plants. There's a large wetland.
Celery Flats.
There you go. Thank you, Larry. That's probably the largest in the city, and that is a true wetland that is recognized by the state. It obviously is affected directly by the Black River, and those sorts, as you all know, those sorts of environments are good to maintain because they do help control flooding and runoff and contamination. They kind of act like sponges. So they look nice, but they also actually do have an environmental function. There are, as you know, several ravines around throughout the city as well that do have some creeks that run through them. Those I don't think necessarily are identified as wetlands specifically. Some of them, there are, I think, a couple that branch off of the Black River itself. Those may be part of the state waterways, identified waterways, because they are attached. But overall, you know, I can't really tell you off the top of my head, Tim, how many regulated or unregulated wetland sites are in the city. But the difference between the two, obviously, are the state operates regulated wetlands. You're not allowed to develop near them. In fact, I think the only way you can get anywhere close to them is to operate in an agricultural type sense. But no development is permitted around that. Unregulated typically tend to be areas in the community that are just soft and typically flood regularly. Usually you all or the locals know where those spots are in the community. I do have, off the top of my head, I know where there's a few spots, and I've come to figure out where these were due to the fact that people that built homes on top of them have frequent flooding in their basements and backyards and things like that. And they're constantly calling the city to complain that their neighbors are, you know, pushing water into their yard and it's flooding them out. And I'll talk to the engineers and they'll say that, well, that has historically been a pretty wet spot and the soils aren't good for absorption there. And it's just always been like that. So, you know, maybe if we had something like that, or something by adding these unregulated and regulated wetlands to site plans, we may be able to catch some of those development conundrums that end up popping up later on down the road after the development goes through, when all the neighbors, you know, notice that they're getting wetter basements and wetter backyards than they used to, apparently. So.
Okay. And we'll probably have to look at the ravines, because I think the city doesn't have jurisdiction. I think the county does.
Okay.
Most of the ravines. All right, any other questions or comments for item 1?
Hey, Tim, this is George.
Yeah, George.
I had a similar question. I'm concerned about the term unregulated wetlands, because I can see that somewhat subjective and I would be worried that what someone might see is just a, an area on their property that sometimes has standing water in it, considering it a wetland versus what a regulated wetland would be. And I understand where Brad is coming from, but it seems like it's two separate issues it would seem like the intent to me is that you want to try to be mindful of the environment and not mindful of whether somebody building a house is going to have a flooded basement or not.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, I was a little puzzled by the term unregulated wetlands. I believe I've seen, I was looking for it while Brad was talking, a wetlands map of all the wetlands in the city. There's some out by Blue Star on the south side of the river. There would be west of Blue Star. There's a bunch of homes in there that can't get insurance because they're so low. So I would, if we don't have one, I think we probably ought to develop a map that identifies wetlands. That's
Okay.
my comment.
Thank you, Todd. Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, Larry, regulated wetlands have an acreage requirement. And I think in terms of looking at a site plan, there are wetlands that we need to be concerned about that are smaller than the acreage requirement of a regulated wetland. So I don't think we should be afraid of the term unregulated. We're just asking somebody to identify this on a site plan. And if we're restricted, and I believe it's 5 acres, if I recall correctly, we certainly want to look at something smaller than 5 acres if it's really a wetland. But let's don't be afraid of regulated or non-regulated. We're just asking somebody to put it on a site plan. And I think it's a good idea to do that. We may have to put some definitions in our definition section.
Mr. Chairman, please. The intent here is just to add another tool to the site plan review, looking to anticipate and prevent problems, correct?
Yes.
Because we have had opportunity within the last year. As an example, we had one of the PUDs that we had issues with runoff into people's basements. And that was actually, I think, folks, you remember maybe better than I do. I think that was actually, the argument was that the developer had actually raised the property. So I'm not sure it had been considered a wetland, but it might give us an extra tool to be able to look at that before the development gets underway and have that little extra added protection.
Well, I think there's a difference between a wetland and a wet area.
Yeah,
Yes.
I do too.
Okay.
Yeah. And Larry, I just did actually, while you were bringing that up, I did just look it up under Eagle. It seemed these are the points that make it regulated versus an unregulated wetland. They have to be connected to one of the Great Lakes or Lake St. Clair, located within 1,000 feet of one of the Great Lakes or Lake St. Clair, or connected to an inland lake, pond, river, or stream, or located within 500 feet of an inland lake, pond, river, or stream, not connected to one of the Great Lakes or Lake St. Clair or an inland lake, pond, stream, or river, but are more than 5 acres in size, and not connected to one of the Great Lakes or Lake St. Clair or an inland lake, pond, stream, or river less than 5 acres in size, but the state or Eagle has determined that that specific wetland is essential to the preservation of the state's natural resources and has notified that particular property owner that that is now a regulated wetland. So that's how it's a regulated wetland is determined in Michigan.
Well, that's pretty clear.
All right, very good. Anything else for item 1 for now? Seeing none, we'll move to item 2, which refers to section 1718, and it regards environmental impact statement as a conditional requirement. Any questions or comments on that one?
I just had a question on process here. Actually, what we would be looking at is establishing the criteria by which they would have to meet that would determine whether we need an EIS or not. I mean, I don't think we intend to have this as a tool when they come before us for a site plan review. We go, oh no, you're going to need an environmental impact study on that.
Correct.
So it's
Correct.
the form.
Yes, what I think the intention was here, Mike, when it was written is, as you can see on there, it says 1718. That's the environmental impact statements. That's
Right.
exactly, where you're supposed to apply the EIS to. Basically, if it's larger than 5 acres, if the building's more than 85,000 square feet, if it's a PUD, things like that automatically trigger an EIS, has to be done. But what this is speaking to is the possibility that the Planning Commission's adding another tool stating that if they deem it necessary because they feel this is environmentally sensitive, that they have the option to request an environmental impact statement. Now, like you said, it's something that you would not apply to everybody because it just wouldn't apply across the board. But if it's something outside of that, larger than 5 acres, 85,000 square feet, or a PUD, but is near, let's say, a regular wetland, you may want to put have the ability to say, we would really like you to consult someone to see if this has any more environmental impact on the community. I don't know how you all feel about that. That was my interpretation of what these goals were designed as.
Well, when in the process would they be informed that we're suggesting they need that? In other words, we wouldn't want them to come before us with a site plan.
No.
Okay.
No, this would be something that we would review up front. Staff would review it up front.
Okay.
And then if it's something that kind of flags us out, if this is something where you all have placed it as this is something we would like to consider it or
Yes.
considering it, we can then contact, or bring it up at the next meeting that there's something in the works. Should we include an environmental impact statement for the site plan review?
Yes, thank you.
Because no, you would not want to have them show up with their
No
completed
surprises.
and then slam an EIS on top of them at the very end of their project. So, I mean, that happens sometimes, but, I think that's up front.
Understood.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Larry.
I kind of disagree with Brad on the approach here. It seems to me it would be more workable for a developer who was preparing a site plan here if we use section 1718 to define an environmental impact statement, what has to be included in environmental impact statement. And then in Article 14, we put the criteria for when you're going to require it. And some of those, when you require it, are already in the 1718. I think they should be moved to section 14. And then we can add more requirements, and it can be scaled that you're always going to do it if this, or if it's near a wetland, then you're going to do it. Those kind of things, so that the developer knows that there are occasions when he doesn't need one, but these are the occasions when he definitely does. Size of the project, location, that kind of.
Okay, very good point. So we could do some juxtaposing of where certain criteria are located in our documents. Okay. Anything else for item 2 for right now?
Tim, this is George again.
Yeah, George.
So I guess I was thinking about Brad's just recent statement about having the staff look at a potential site plan and flag it if they think it might be something the Planning Commission might want an environmental impact statement on, if I understood it right. And I would think that might put the staff in kind of a difficult position, because it would mean they would kind of be the initial screener. And I can see some times maybe when one might get flagged and another one might not get flagged, and we might be questioned later on why this one had an environmental impact statement and this one didn't. And so I would think, I agree with maybe expanding the times when you might want an environmental impact statement, but I would think, I would prefer to see that the criteria be somewhat defined so that anybody can look at the criteria and say, yeah, this needs an environmental impact statement or this doesn't. And gets staff out of the business of trying to decide for planning commission when to pass this on.
Agreed. Clear criteria will be part of that amendment. Anybody else?
George, don't we pay them big enough money to be able to make decisions?
I think to George's point, and I agree with George, that was kind of what I was asking as well. The decisions that need to be made are the upfront decisions. What are our criteria? Certainly, I don't have that skill, and I would assume they do. So the more they can define that upfront and be preventive, that's what planning is all about.
Okay. Anybody else? We'll move on to item 3, which is section 1709 regarding plant materials and landscape requirements. Any particular thoughts or comments on this one?
I just think this is an excellent idea. You know, the further we can go into these kind of landscaping materials, the better. So environmentally successful and would save, I think, a lot of work and stormwater management. I don't know. I think it's a no-brainer.
So Brad, with this one, probably the first thing that comes to my mind is if you're dealing with parking and having to have a revetment for, water, sometimes that has not been counted towards green space. And therefore, this opens up for that being able to be called green space. And the reason this is probably really important right now is because we're looking at that rather sizable development south of town on the Overton property. And if it's tucked in close and they need a retention pond for parking drainage, can that be considered green space or not? And so with that, do you see any other kind of detrimental thought to allowing these types of areas to be green space? Like when would you and when would you not want it to be green space?
Well, I think it applies directly to the developments that are required to have a certain percentage, in any sort of development. And I think, like you said, those larger developments, there's a couple down on the south side of town that are going to be going. We require them to have so much open space already as a planned unit development. Maybe if they're a little more sensitive to this natural approach to stormwater management, and it doesn't just have to be bioswales or rain gardens. There can also be lots of other types of natural stormwater management. But that, if they do install these things like those photos that I showed, that yes, instead of treating that as just the edge of the road or the edge of the street, that the percentage required there, if it's 5% or whatever, or 10%, is particular green space. I mean, that could count towards it, or, I feel that it's a good idea to do so. I think it says that the city is thinking about this and would like to see people who are planning on developing to kind of be creative with this. And we kind of, give that back to them, like, we will count this towards your landscaping requirements if you are a little more creative in how you plan on handling your stormwater management. So, I think it's a good thing to do.
But, I do have a question too. If, as we develop some of these, well, as these developments progress and green space and open space, if folks see these as places to play or run, there's a big difference. These are not places to play and run.
No.
And that's where, there could be a conflict. And I don't know how that's going to get defined.
Right. And that's probably, again, similar to what the first two objectives were, Rosalie, is that, it really comes down to we're going to have to make a very definitive statement or rule or definition that clearly defines those types of things. No, you could have somebody playing in a bioswale along the side of the road, but it's not very safe for them to do so.
Hey, anybody else for item 3 before we move on? Okay, next up is 4. How do I want to do a synopsis of this one? Basically, landscaping and low maintenance plantings. It says along William Street. I would probably say we should nix the William Street idea of this and say streets paralleling the Black River. Anybody have any comments, questions for this one? And keep in mind, these are just initial thoughts.
Right.
We'll get into this in much more detail later on, but any thoughts or comments tonight will help Brad and staff develop the next set of papers that come your way.
Hey, Brad, this is George. You talk about a complete review and overhaul of section 1709, materials and landscaping. In your research, did you happen to note when that was or how old that is? Is it pretty old or is it pretty recent?
It spans back all the way to our original adoption in 1983, but it's been amended several times. And I should probably say what I wrote there sounds a little more dramatic than what it really is. It's not necessarily going to be a complete overhaul. It's just going to be, we're going to have to thoroughly review it, through the entire article because it is several pages long. It does cover many different things about, where you can plant things, how much buffer you can have, what types of trees are considered appropriate for the development, what types of trees you can't place because the city has determined that they're invasive or, things like, there's lots of different sections in there. And I think what this objective was pertaining to is trying to possibly, look at reviewing this to include, grasses and native plantings and other types of plant materials to use along with all the materials and recommendations that are outlined in section 1709. So it's going to be a piece by piece review, but it's not necessarily going to be, we're just going to chuck the whole thing and start afresh. I think, just a couple things added in there would be good, but I think we're all going to have to look at it and really kind of figure out where it fits best and what they are.
Thank you.
Anybody else for item 4?
Yeah, comment. This is Todd Heinrich, Mr. Chairman. This has to do with 3 and 4. It was something that Brad touched on. The ravines, our home happens to be on a ravine. And it was something that we looked for when we were looking for a home here. We wanted a house on a ravine because of the privacy and the buffer from the backyard. And when we started looking, it's remarkable. If you haven't taken a look, how much of the urban area on the west side of Blue Star is ravines and is essentially unbuildable property. It's, I don't know, 100 acres, 200 acres. It's a large amount of property. And these are big natural corridors that run through our city. And most of them, as some also was mentioned, are managed by the county and the Drain Commission.
Mhm.
And they're sort of a unrecognized asset, if you look at them that way. They retain water, they act as storm water retention. They're probably the largest stormwater retention system, and it's natural, that we have in our city. I just would ask that the staff think about that, and is there some way that we could work with the county and maybe the Drain Commission? I have been in cities on the other side of the state where they have easements. The county does have easements through most of the ravines to maintain them. Is there any possibility of incorporating those into the park district somehow as to put walkways? Our property line runs down into the ravine. Is there any opportunity to work to connect with our Parks Department or the county? I'm just kind of thinking out loud here, but we could probably solve several, add several assets at the same time with with something that already exists. We don't have to build it. We don't have to, plant it particularly special. It'd be nice to try to figure out what would naturally be growing in our ravines if we didn't send backhoes down there to clean them out periodically. I know, and that is a necessity to keep them going through the culverts. So it's just something to think about for staff. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Anyone else before we move to 5? Okay, we'll go to 5, desirability of regulations for wind energy conversion systems and solar panels. So right now, what is it, Brad? We do not allow wind turbines because if I remember right, the height, there's a safety circumference area for height. So the taller it is, the wider the circle is for safety. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. For and those ones that you see out in the middle of farm fields and stuff like that, the distances that you have to have between houses or property lines or whatever between those things is thousands of feet. I mean, because they're so large. Obviously, we wouldn't get anything that large in the city, but we do have a pretty comprehensive wind turbine or wind energy system ordinance already in place, regulating height, location, size, output, where it's sited on the house, if it's attached to the house or if it's not attached. I mean, some things like that. Similar with solar panels, I think our solar isn't quite as in depth as our wind energy is, but it's something that we all could sit down and, again, like kind of lived before with the plant material items, that we could thumb through this and really look at it and just see if there is any more desirability to add any more regulations to them. I mean, I know we like to promote people to do natural things and stuff like that, but it's something that I think the Planning Commission can consider.
Okay.
I think too, if I recall correctly, we also have overlays in our design. There can be higher turbines, I think, east of Blue Star. Yeah, there's differentiations as we look in the city. The only reason I would like to revisit this is technology has changed considerably since we took our first stab at this. Maybe not so much in wind turbines, but I think it may impact how we look at solar panels and use of solar in the city. So I think it's timely to look back at what we did, because again, I think wind turbines have changed dramatically too. So.
Yeah, and that was certainly, I was on council when we were looking at that. And at that time, I think the only wind turbines around was going to be a fairly large one at the chemical plant. And then we ended up going with a very reasonable, different design, actually on the Fenske property.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments for item 5? Okay, we'll move to 6. Analysis of community and neighborhood support for height restrictions for structures. which may affect beach and harbor views. And I think Brad's explanation on this one was spot on.
The impact of the slide is good as well, Brad.
I tried to find something where, yeah, you kind of get that picture of like, what, I can't see what's over there. So, yeah. And again, it's something that I think Travis and I experience quite frequently, actually. Neighbors, calling the city and saying my neighbor is putting a fence in and it's blocking my view of the lake, or, things like that. There are regulations that we can, that we do have in place for things like that. But, the possibility of looking at that and possibly even on a neighborhood scale versus citywide. We have ordinances in place for buildings. And really, when I was looking through online through some of the legal stuff, like I said, views really aren't considered a protected property right. The only way that I believe that you can really enforce that issue is if your neighbor or someone constructs a structure purposely and it has no functional or usable purpose other than to basically block you out. So I think that's the only real way they can do it. But again, I'm not a lawyer, so that's it. But I do not believe that, the folks that live along the lake have more of a right than their neighbors 2 doors down do, or their neighbors 2 doors down have the right to see it properly. So, but it's something that is important and very, very kind of central to the community, I think, because of its location to its river and the lake shore.
Okay, any additional questions or comments for item 6?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Heineck here.
Yes, Larry.
I think part of this analysis ought to also include what other cities of our size and our nature are doing.
Okay, comparable. Anything else?
Hey, Tim, this is George.
Yes, George.
I just have a concern that a view is somewhat, and I see it's in quotation marks, but it could be somewhat subjective. I mean, some people have an unobstructed view. Some people have views that are just, a very small window between 2 other buildings that already exist. And, a tree could grow up to a certain height and block their view. And is that considered, something that's a problem? So I don't know, I've just being on city council, I've gotten complaints of people saying that, something's blocking their view. And I go look at the house and I go, well, what kind of view did they have originally? It doesn't seem like they had much of a view, but so that's my only concern on that.
Good point. And on that point too, when I was on council, a few times people came in and said, hey, I don't like what my neighbor painted, the color he painted his house, make him change it. So there's crazy things go on. All right, no more for 6. And we'll move on to 7, which is regulations for outdoor fire pits. And if you're asking me, I think out of all these 8, that's probably the number one that needs to get addressed. I've seen some giant bonfires in people's yards in town, which I'm sure our fire chief would not like.
I think too, the first thing that struck me on this, and I agree with you, Tim, I think it needs to be addressed, is I don't think we can have a citywide ordinance. Our neighborhoods are so distinctly different. You look at the lot size in my neighborhood compared to others. If you put an open fire pit 10 feet from a property line, that's probably going to be 20, 30 feet from my bedroom window. So I just want us to take a really good look at being definitive based on impact of the fire pits, not just one overlay. Says here's our city ordinance.
And, you know, I think that, yeah, we definitely, I mean, I think there's been certainly enough chatter, pro and against. And I think that I've read and heard about other municipalities taking a really hard look at this, going as far as outlawing them completely unless they're gas. You know, in all my walking, and I walk late at night sometimes, they go far into the night, and very close. You know, it's kind of funny. People don't want them close to their bedroom windows, so they're going far back into their yards, and they're under the bedroom windows of their neighbors, who then have to shut their windows in the summertime. You know, when, you know, that's the only time we can have our bedroom windows open. And, you know, it just, and it causes such strife. So this is going to be a hard one to tackle, but I think you're right, Tim. It's one that we really do have to look at. And as far as the ones in the front yards, a lot of people have them in the front yards. My new neighbors put a really fancy fire pit. It's a gas one, but it has to be 3 feet from the sidewalk. So, so, you know, I don't know, but yeah, I think we are going to have to look at this.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I would certainly concur. Let's look at something that we can apply citywide that may change depending on lot size. We just need to come up with at least some kind of standards. And certainly not getting rid of them. I'm not a proponent of that, but like you said, we've got a large bonfire in one property. We can come up with something.
Mr. Chairman, it's Amy. First of all, apologies for being late. Yeah, I agree. We have to look at this because it's just going to cause us consternation from here on out if we don't address this now and get some kind of plan. I too am not really, you know, a proponent of getting rid of them altogether, although in a perfect world, everybody would have to have gas and we wouldn't have any issues. We wouldn't have to have any planning for it. It would be so much easier, but it's not a perfect world, so we have to look at it.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, we'll move on to 8. Site plan review with the city arborist in order to preserve the urban tree canopy. Pretty self-explanatory. Aaron Krieb, I believe, still our arborist. He's been with us a long time because I was on city council when we hired him and went after the tree designation. So good guy.
Mr. Chairman, Heinig here. I'd like to reserve this zoning ordinance for zoning issues. So this is a staff issue. Let's just instruct staff to include the arborist, and we don't tell them to include the engineer. We don't tell them to include sales or the fire. I always want to put an L in there. I don't know why. It just flows better for me. But it's a staff issue. Let's let them carry it, and let's don't load our zoning ordinance up with things that are not zoning.
Okay. I do think, if you remember in Brad's presentation, and he talked about the rain garden, it had a before and after picture, and the before picture showed quite a few trees, and the afterward picture were native grasses and wildflowers. Now that would affect your urban canopy, so maybe we don't need it in the ordinance, but we probably should do something to better define what we consider is our urban forest, like what percentage needs to be under a certain size canopy tree. Maybe, I don't know. But I think that's the thought behind it. Yeah, he brought the picture up. you can see where urban canopy is gone and now it's ground cover. And that definitely has a microclimate impact for the area. Any other thoughts?
This is Janice, and I was looking at that as well when he presented that slide, and certainly, and so I justified it in my mind as he was talking that this would be for along the river, not necessarily throughout the city. And is that correct, Brad? Is that my interpretation is correct?
In the objectives, I think they did highlight along the river as a very important space. People have put these in other areas as well, all over the cities, and just using them as their stormwater management period, basically abolishing their traditional, or if a roadway is, doesn't really have a traditional system, but they need something, they install it. But I agree with what Tim had said, is that a lot of these do remove the trees if they're installing them. Usually it's typically during a big project, a big road project. It doesn't look like this particular one was, but I think the reason they do that is obviously because even if you tried to work around the trees, you're damaging the root system, and they can't handle the water, the heavy water that comes in, and just during heavy rains just sits in there, waiting to kind of set back in. I think that has something to do with it. But yes, I think that it is one of the highlights or points of this goal is to try and protect the runoff into the river and the sensitive wetland areas near the river. That this could be something that could be applied in that sense, instead of, off a Blue Star Highway or something, or well, it may be better out there because you probably have less street trees out there than you would running through a typical boulevard system. But I agree with what you said there, Janice, that I think the river area is the most sensitive area, and is probably the most applicable to this type of solution, I guess you could say.
I think that's what I would state if we were doing this objective, because I really do value the trees that we have and the canopy. And I think it's something that in the past we've been noted for as a city. And certainly when you walk back and forth to the beach, the canopies are really of value, and they do make the town much more distinctive. So I would hate to see that this would get in place of the trees, but I do understand if it's near the river for that purpose.
Okay, anyone else for item 8? Okay, seeing none, that's the end of the official list. And then Brad had also noted what I'll call items 9 and 10, but we'll take them together as one, is high water sensitive shorelines. Any additional comments for those two items, high water and sensitive shorelines?
Well, I do think, and Travis, if I understood our conversation well enough, we're not done with our discussions with the group taking a look at it, and I think we may be in a better position to talk about some of these actions that we're considering after we've completed our work with Leah.
Yes, and I was going to address that in my comments, but I'll let everyone know right now that the third meeting, the third joint session between our planning commission, Casco Township, and South Haven Charter has been scheduled for March 18th. So that's 2 weeks from tonight at 6 o'clock. I believe Kate said that she will be posting something tomorrow on the website about it. I don't think the folks from Leah have yet posted an agenda for that meeting, but as soon as they do, we'll have that up on the website as well.
March 18th at what time?
6 p.m.
Okay, make sure you put that on your calendars.
Mr. Chairman, could you refresh my memory? Leah is the organization that held the class on shoreline erosion that we all session? What
Yeah,
does
there's been
Leah,
a couple of them, yeah.
what does Leah stand for?
Land,
Sorry, I just found my bookmark. We're good.
Land
Thank you.
Information Access Associates.
Okay.
Wonderful.
They're based out of Traverse City.
Okay, anything else? And,
Heinig here.
yeah, Larry,
Is if the numbering system means anything, I think your number 9 and 10 should be ahead of number 1. Make them 0.4 and 0.5.
okay. Good. Very good. All right, Brad, unless there's anything else regarding our 8 items plus 0.4 and 0.5. I'll have Brad, why don't you run through your 3 points again?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I was gonna have you read those again, so we know where we're at.
Last steps here.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So yes, I think we should, and we started, like we all said, we started our discussions tonight, these objectives, with the addition of a couple that, you know, we all have identified over the last while now that we feel are pretty darn important. So I think we continue to speak up about that, and continue working through this over the next few meetings, and possibly work towards, you know, setting up dates for completion of these items. I think that some of these objectives are much more simple and easier to accomplish than others are. They simple are, you know, they're just simple, you know, making a good definition to insert into the ordinance or something like that, or adding in a review policy step or something like that into it, that we can make an amendment, a text amendment into the ordinance, just to kind of fix that and put that in for a couple of these items. So those may be the easiest way to go and can get off the bat. I think there's some of them that need a lot more discussion to speak, you know, that we should all, you know, continue to think about and work through. And, you know, I think pushing forward, we should definitely set up some sort of achievement dates that we could complete these, or, you know, get halfway there and then go through that first step and then go to the second step for full completion and for a review at the end or something, just so we can make sure that we've done everything that the original objectives were put in place to accomplish. Or, like, you know, some of these we've, you know, looked at them again and kind of figured that, well, maybe we would like to do something a little bit different or in addition to what we're adding. So I think it's a good idea to do, is to kind of give ourselves a goal, you know, something that's achievable, you know, but also gives us enough time to accomplish this and do the job well. So those are just my ideas for the next steps.
Which ones do you think will be the most difficult out of these 10 items?
I think the most discussion and difficulty are probably going to come in the shoreline protection stuff. You know, I think we all know what we would like to see, but I think working out exactly how to define that and how we're going to place that into our regulations and our review processes will take a little bit more effort. I think, let me go to something like this. Larry had mentioned is probably the simplest, just to say, why don't we just have staff, you know, include the arborist along with all the rest of the professional staff that we have at the city for a site plan review up front. So it's something that's easily taken care of. Fire pits, you know, that's something I think is a hot topic, you know, pun intended, but you know, that's, again, could probably go through a lot of discussion. I don't think it's going to be as heavy lifting as some of them, but it's still going to be something that we're going to have to take a little while to figure out, and how are we going to do this? Because like I said, unfortunately, we've been trying to, I don't want to say wing it, but we've been trying to try and apply some sort of regulation to people doing these. And you know, we have noticed that there are certain people or people that have constructed these items as these outdoor grills or outdoor fireplaces. They're becoming very popular in our building permit applications. Unfortunately, the only way we can regulate them is an accessory structure and treat it the same way as a garden shed. And it's really not. And it's something that we all know that we can't really treat it like that, but there's not much that we can do. So it's kind of, we're trying to use our best judgment on a case by case scenario to issuing these permits for building. Whoops, sorry. I think this is another one that we're going to have to, you know, we'll probably take a little more heavy lifting. Like George said, views are really subjective to where you live. We do have ordinances and regulations in place that for the folks that do live on the lakeshore, they are required not to build certain structures on the lakeshore side. If they put a fence in, it can only be, you know, so tall, and it can be only installed at this location. And that's to prevent or try and keep a good wide view for people that are on the lake. There's several, I guess they're not really parks, they're right of ways, but they kind of treated like parks at the dead ends of a lot of streets in town. So the community, everyone has the right or the ability to go and enjoy a view along the lake at several locations throughout the city. So, you know, I think it's something that people are, you know, that they consider important. So I think it's again, something that we'll have to look on a, you know, where it's pertinent and what we should do. The wind turbine stuff, like I said, we can go into it. Mike mentioned that there's been a lot of technological updates with it, and it might be beneficial to go in. So this might be something that we don't have to do so much heavy lifting with, because it's already been hammered out quite a bit. So it may be something that we can quickly, or I shouldn't say quickly, but easily go through the entire ordinance and then try and apply these new ideas to what's already there, and then possibly expand if we see that. Both of these objectives, 3 and 4, with the rain gardens and other items, I think this one particularly here about increasing the percentage for large developments to be able to use these sorts of things. I think it's not very difficult to think. I think it's pretty straightforward and everyone understands it. But we may have to determine, you know, do we draw the line at a certain place, or is this something we want to consider universally across the board to everyone, including, you know, houses and things like that? But, you know, those people don't have to have a percentage requirement, but, you know, it's something we're going to have to look at. And then both of these objectives, 1 and 2, I think are fairly easy. Those are the ones that I was talking about, quick amendments and with definitions and clearly defining procedural steps, you know, with like this environmental impact, you know, when should staff look at these situations, so we don't have to try and play, you know, the determining, you know, try and use our best judgment and, you know, make sure that it's consistent across the board. You know, I don't think it's going to be that difficult to do. I really don't think that many of these are going to be very difficult and it really require many months to accomplish. I think we could do that over a couple meetings and get these pretty far, but there are a couple that you all have identified that will probably take, you know, 3, 4, 5 months worth of discussions over, you know, during meetings to discuss about that, and having staff work on drafting things up and coming back and presenting things to you, so we can have more topics to talk about and tweak it that way. So I think really that's kind of the way I look at it, Tim.
All right, so our goal would be to get through natural resources and sensitive environments, basically this calendar year, correct?
Yes, yeah, that would be good.
That's a pretty aggressive goal.
I think it's achievable though.
Okay. So if we're going on that thought, and you named, well, we know the shoreline item is gonna be one big item of itself. So we take that one off. You named two other ones that are probably a little more on the complicated, need more discussion. So that leaves us with 7 items. So if we say April, May, June, at least 2 per meeting, we could have a schedule to discuss the more difficult ones starting July. Does that sound reasonable?
It sounds reasonable to me, Tim.
Okay.
Let's do the work. Yeah.
I'm just trying to set up the commission for expectation of what we're gonna do going forward.
Yeah, I think that's an achievable goal, schedule. And I think it's time efficient as well, or laid out well, because you know, we all want to attend the third LEA conference or education session, go through that, and then, you know, a couple members have also identified that they would like to have a subcommittee put together to, you know, sit down and kind of hash some things out and create some ideas to bring back to the Planning Commission to discuss the shoreline preservation and protection. So, you know, if we start those heavier objects, you know, in the summer, I think that would be good, because that gives this subcommittee some time to work through this stuff.
Okay, so you can adjust items 1 through 8. You know, we'll start with the easier ones, or the ones that don't require quite as much work, and start those at our next meeting in April, and we'll keep moving. So, and the goal's about 2 items a meeting.
Sounds good.
Okay, sounds like a plan. With that, let's move to staff comments. Do you have any?
May I ask Brad one quick question, Brad? What do we do about the other 8 goals on the master plan?
We're going to continue working through them. It's just start taking them one step at a time, you know.
But realistically, our master plan's got what, 2 years left in it?
It's 3. It has 3 more years.
Okay, all right.
And,
All right.
and again, yeah, again, the way updates work, Mike, is the state requires the Planning Commission to review them every 5 years. You don't necessarily have to create a new plan every 5 years.
Wonderful.
So the goal is, you know, as you all know, a master plan is a long-term goal that can alter and change over time. So it's 20 to 30 years out that we're thinking about things when you initially define that. So every 5 years, if you touch base back to see what's been accomplished, and if you've come up with any new ideas that you can put into an update, then that's that. So that's what you're looking at coming up in the next 3 years.
Yeah, it just struck me, I think, in terms of ease, number 1's probably going to be one of the easier ones compared to the other 8 that are on this list.
Yes, and really there's some goals later on at the end of the list, especially a lot with the transportation and stuff that I think you all will have a lot of input with, but also are going to affect
Absolutely.
the Works Department and the engineer and working with MDOT and things like that. Those are a little bit more difficult and also involve a lot more departments and staff and other agencies of the county and the state. So
thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Any comments?
So I just wanted to remind everyone that we already discussed it, but yeah, 2 weeks from tonight, so March 18th at 6 p.m. will be the 3rd in the LEA series. So again, more information will be coming out on that tomorrow or next week. The other item I wanted to bring to the Planning Commission's attention is the fact that part of our requirement as an RRC community is that you all and all of the boards and commissions have sort of continuing education and training. And so MAP, Michigan Association of Planners, has put out their schedule for this year of training programs or training sessions for planning commissioners and local officials. And so I will be getting in touch with all of you to see who might have some interest in attending any of those sessions. I believe most of them are virtual. I think probably all of them are right now. But be looking to find at least one or two folks maybe who would be looking to attend a certain session. And if we can get 3 or 4 of those sessions covered and then have those folks who attended those trainings report back to the planning commission, I think it'd be helpful, and it will also help us again continue to stay up with the requirements that we have to meet as an RRC city. So those are my comments.
Okay. Any other staff here has any comments? Okay. Oh, yeah.
Tim, can I just jump in? Also, back in January, we did discuss the campground / yurt discussion. And we decided that we wouldn't really talk about it unless we got a plan application submitted. We've had one submitted now. So that is probably something we're going to have to bring up at the next meeting and discuss that possibility of a text amendment to see what your feelings are on that.
Okay, very good.
I'm just making sure everybody knows that was turned into the office.
I'm excited to review that one. That's quite a different structure. Okay, so now we'll do commissioner comments, and I'll name you off to start. Clark, anything?
I don't know if I've got anything to say. Do you think I have anything to say there, Melinda?
Don't bring me into this.
Okay, I don't have anything to say, so I'll just defer it to Griffin.
Okay.
Happy birthday, Griffin.
Larry?
Comments.
No comments. Todd?
Yes, in going through the minutes, you may or may not have noticed, I'm not particularly comfortable in doing public speaking, and I consider this is my version of public speaking. And I wanted to just shout out to Marcia, who somehow manages to take my stream of consciousness comments and make them coherent. And so thank you, Marcia. And that's all I had tonight.
Okay. Mike?
Just thanks for the review on the master plan. I think that's I think I've made it clear that's one of my obsessions, is that we don't create a plan and put it on the shelf and go, oh, look, isn't that pretty? So I think it's very important that we take a look at whether we're making any progress and earning our living here on the planning commission. So thank you for that, Brad and Travis. Thank you all.
Amy?
Just again, my apologies for being late because I do have evening classes once in a while. Tonight was one of those nights, and so is March 18th. So I'll be looking forward to watching the video of that when the Leah thing is recorded. So thank you, and I'm really glad, Clark, that you did not sing to Griffin.
And then just to comment on what Amy said, that's why we have as many commissioners as we do, so we have quorum. So it's okay to miss once in a while.
Thanks.
Rosalie?
Surprisingly, no comments. Thank you.
Okay. George?
Just real quick, I attended a virtual Core Academy from the Michigan Municipal League this past weekend. And they had a really good section on planning and zoning, and emphasized the importance of the master plan. So I agree with Michael that it's good that we're going through the master plan and taking on some of those recommendations that are in there. That's all I have. I don't know if I can take credit for that as for what you were talking about Travis, but it was very helpful, I thought.
Okay, Janice.
I just want to thank Brad and Travers too for all the background work that they did and in their presentation of that first goal. Appreciate all your hard work.
My only comment is on what George said, and after attending many of those myself, I find sometimes, and I say this with a bit of jest, that a lot of the people that promote the master plan in turn hand you their company's card because they create master plans, so. All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
This is Clark. I will make a motion to adjourn.
Is there support?
George Sleeper, I second.
George seconds. Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call please, Travis.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Barney,
Yes.
Gruber,
Yes.
Heinig,
Yes.
Heinrich,
Go ahead.
Heinrich. Neese,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Bakati,
Yes.
Stegman.
Yes. And the meeting is adjourned. Have a good evening, everybody.
Yeah. Doesn't look good, Griff. 64-36.
Woo. Not good at all.
Yeah.
Let's hope we get lucky.